Happy Glacier Science Day, it's Ranger Melissa. Thanks for joining us today. I'm back in Two Medicine, beautiful Two Medicine on a gorgeous September day. It's gonna be about 70 degrees over here today. Behind me, I've got rocky cliffs because we're gonna talk about a species that likes to make their home there. The bighorn sheep. We're going to meet up with research ecologist Dr. Tabitha Graves from the United States Geological Survey and Dr. Elizabeth Flesch, who's from Montana State University, where she's a postdoctoral researcher. So let's go find Tabitha and see a little bit more if we can find these bighorn sheep and learn more about them. So come on, let's go. Oh, Tabitha, there you are. How are you today? I see you're looking at something. What do you have in your binoculars? Are you seeing some sheep today?
I am, yeah. There's some bighorn sheep up there in the cliffs.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Yeah, pretty big group of them. There's some ewes with some lambs.
No way.
This group of bighorns is unique because it's one of only two large native metapopulations that have never gone extinct locally. And they also have never had other bighorn sheep brought into them. And so they're basically have been around for a really, really long time.
Like thousands of years?
Probably thousands of years, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What a cool thing to have here in this park. So I want to know more about your research. What are you studying and what are you trying to find out about bighorn populations here?
We are interested in all kinds of things. So we're looking at the habitat selection. So why are they in some places versus other places? We're interested in the movement, and for that there's kind of two things that we're interested in. On the one hand, if you have connected populations that move and interchange, it basically means there's a larger population size, and so that can be more robust to different things that happen. And then for bighorn sheep, one of the current threats that's really a big deal is respiratory pneumonia.
Oh.
And yeah, so there's a respiratory disease, and it can actually kill off a large portion of the herd.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah, and so the movement is important because being a metapopulation, so there's multiple small populations, we think.
Okay.
That means that those places where they might move between each other are also, and swap places with each other, are also places where the disease might be able to be transmitted.
Aha, disease hubs.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you know where the bighorn sheep are going?
Well, I brought something to show you, actually.
Okay, cool.
So this is a GPS collar, and it's got a couple different parts on it. And so this big part down here is the battery pack, and that's what lets it run for the whole year or more that we have it out on the bighorn sheep. This is an antenna on this part and up at the top, and that's what lets it get the satellite signal. So it can record a GPS location. And then we have a little cloth part that can eventually wear through, or we have a remote release that will let the collar fall off when we have it programmed to. So it just goes pop, and then it drops off, and then we can go and get the collar. But most of the time we're able to retrieve them. So we got 95 of our 100 collars
95
back.
out of 100? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible resource. So we have over 168,000 locations.
Oh my gosh.
Across those 95 different sheep.
Wow, there's so much to learn, but it looks like just tracking them and exploring where they go and their habitat is really helping.
Yeah, I mean, it tells us which areas are important for them, for one thing, but then it also lets us start to get at questions about how those areas might be changing over time with climate change and fire. One of the cool things about the GPS collar data is it can show us the places where they do tend to use more often, and one of those places that's really interesting is mineral licks. So these mineral licks are needed by the sheep for the resources they have for their horns and their bones and their teeth, all those things.
Wow.
And they're in Glacier Park, it's really rare, a lot of these minerals. And so they'll go as far as 30 kilometers to these mineral licks. The GPS collar data gives us this really fine scale information about like a location every few hours about how the bighorn sheep are moving across the landscape, whether it's to these mineral licks or to their lambing areas or their rutting areas. We're going to pair that with the genetic data, which
Okay.
tells us more about long-term movements and how gene flows between different parts of the
Oh,
population.
wow. So that would be a lot longer term because
Yeah.
you're looking at how genes for many different generations, right? Like
Yeah.
move across these populations.
Exactly. So you get, a single individual will carry their genes somewhere, and then if they have offspring, it gets more diffuse in that part of the population.
And to learn more about that, we get to meet with Dr. Elizabeth Flesch from Montana State University. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been working together a long time, and I think you'll really enjoy talking to her.
Okay, great. So we'll hopefully meet up with her soon and find out more. Elizabeth, oh my gosh, thank you so much for meeting us today. We've heard all about your work from Tabitha. I'm so excited to learn more about the genetics that you're doing with bighorn sheep. Are you going to show us some cool stuff today?
Yeah, let's head on in the office and I'll show you.
Okay, awesome. Let's go.
Yeah, so effectively to learn about genetics, of course, we have to get samples from the bighorn sheep themselves. And so we capture them and then collect those samples using these tools that I have here. So for example, this tube here is what you can put blood inside, or we can also put the blood on what's called a FTA classic card or a gene card. And so essentially what you do is just put spots of blood on these little circles here and then dry it out in the air. And then after that, you can just store it at room temperature and then take and then you take little punches from the blood spots that are here in the lab, and then you can extract DNA from that as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that is something I did not know. Man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice because you don't have to worry about freezer storage like you do with these. So we can also take tissue samples. So typically when we catch bighorn sheep, we put a little ear tag in their ear so we can uniquely identify them later. And so what we can do is like getting your ear pierced, we can just take a little punch of the tissue before we put the ear tag in and then place it in this vial with ethanol and then freeze that, and we can extract DNA from that as well.
Wow, that is so cool.
As you probably know, genetic diversity is really important for the potential for a population to adapt to future changing conditions such as environmental changes or changes in disease that they might be exposed to. So if you have more diversity in a population, there's more of a chance that you have some individuals that might survive a new threat because they have different genetics than some others that might not be able to. So we're also looking at how different populations are related to one another, and so that's why I have this graphic up here that we use to actually compare the glacier population with other populations in Montana.
Oh, this is a graphic showing a section of Montana.
So I'm showing you a map of bighorn sheep populations, and so we've got Western Montana shown here, and Glacier is way up at the top. And each of these colors is showing a different genetic line of bighorn sheep populations. And so if a population has the same color, it means that they have a similar genetic line or are related to one another. The glacier population is actually really unique because it's what we call a native population, meaning that it was never extirpated in the history of...
It never died out.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
In the history of Western expansion across North America. And so...
Wow, so that glacier population is special because it's been here for thousands of years.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only one of two large bighorn sheep populations in Montana where that's the case. So it's really special.
Wow.
Of course, the genetics shows long-term movement of breeders, but we can look at the movement data to see how bighorn sheep use the landscape in real time and better understand how smaller groups of sheep are connected to try and understand how respiratory disease might move through a population and how they're connected on a geographic scale.
Wow, I just have learned a ton today about just how important it is when you take a look at a population, a wildlife population, how many intricate details it takes to understand not only their health and how they're doing, but just where they live, how they move across the landscape, who they're related to, how that might impact the whole population as a whole. And that's just really amazing to see all that in the work that you're doing. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming by today and taking time to talk to us about the genetics that relate to this bighorn sheep study. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to kind of learn more and see how some of the information you're collecting will help with management decisions in the future here at Glacier National Park. So thank you for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
We have learned so much about how you are tracking bighorn sheep movement across the landscape, and then finding out how they are connected or not connected with these different subgroups, looking at the genetics. But I'm just wondering, is there anything that we could do to kind of keep these populations safe and intact?
Yeah, we hope that our research will provide managers a lot of options. So USGS is a science agency, and so we do the research, and then we try to present that and share that with our park partners so that they can make decisions that are informed by that science. So some of the things that we think will be important that will come out are, first of all, just identifying the places that are really important for the bighorns. But then if these changes are happening, we can first, we can look at like how is it changing and how does that fit into the bighorn ecology. So we know that they need open meadows, and so if there's particular places where, let's say, shrubs or trees are starting to encroach in those meadows, that gives managers a potential option to think about maybe there's a few of those that might be worth mechanically cutting. It might be that invasive weeds might be degrading some places, and that might be something that could be treated. And then in terms of the movement, which I think was your original question, there could be things like forests that are acting as barriers, and a big forest fire comes through, and managers could decide whether or not that's something important enough to try to protect as a resource. So there's really a wide array of things that could be, that have management potential.
Thanks so much for joining us, Tabitha. We had such fun and learned a great deal. So I want everyone at home, thank you so much also for joining us, but also to know that this is our last Glacier Science video of season 2. So thanks for sticking with us all summer long. I hope that there'll be another season next year, so keep on your radar for looking at our social media feeds. But for now, have a happy Glacier Science Day. See you next year. Bye.